All right, then it is 6:04 PM and I will call to order the December 15th, 2025 meeting of the Essex Elementary School Building Committee. And we will start with attendance by roll call with our online participants first. Tim and John, can you unmute and say your names?
Jim McDonald, present.
John Benares, present.
And around the table, voting members.
Emily Dwyer here.
Kim Provo here.
Charlie Hyde here.
Teresa Whitman here.
Pam Bodman here. Michelle Creston here.
Gordon Brewster here. Mike Gerhart here.
Perfect. Thank you very much. First order of business will be meeting minutes from November 25th, 2025. Trying not to drop the smart board. Does anyone have clarifying questions from the meeting minutes? All right, then I will take a motion to approve the minutes from November 25th, 2025.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Okay.
All in favor by roll call, starting online. Tim,
Yes.
John,
Approve.
and then going around, voting members say your name.
Emily, yes.
Kim, yes.
Charlie, yes.
Teresa, yes.
Pam, yes. Michelle, yes.
Gordon, yes. Mike, yes.
Okay, that's unanimous. Thank you very much.
Such exuberance, man.
I just wanted to be heard. I just wanted to be heard. Spend all day talking to myself.
All right, we have two invoices for review and approval tonight. Do we vote these together or separately?
You can do them together.
We can do them together. Okay, so we have Doran Whittier Management Partners in the amount of $51,587. And we have JCJ Architecture, slight typo on the agenda. It's in the amount of $58,635.08. We had a prior balance of 8 cents to carry forward. So you're welcome. I'll clarify that 8 cents. Michelle, have you had a chance to review this?
I have reviewed the invoices and they are all in order.
Everything is in order?
Yes.
Anyone else have clarifying questions?
I do have a question if I can get the screen up here. I just took a quick look at JCJ's statement. Seems like basically none of the consultants, very little consultants charges have been made. So that's the way we should be.
That's a Michelle question.
That's a Christina
That's
question.
Christina
I thought there would be JCJ questions. That's actually a Fawn question. Fawn, can you speak to that, please?
Yeah, so we have, I'll call it 2 buckets of fee, and one is the base fee, which is JCJ and all of our consultants as we go through the PDP, PSR, and schematic design phase. And then there's a, I'll call it like an allowance where there's numerous consultants that are billing as they do certain work. So for example, the phase 1 study with the environmental engineer, that was a particular task that's billed when that task, they bill when they feel that task is ready to go. We review it and then we pass it on to Doran Whittier through our invoice. So yes, the consultants are billing, but it's under that right now. Most of it is under that base scope at the same percentage as JCJ. So it's not being called out. It's just part of our fee that goes, it's embedded in the fee that we're providing to Doran Whittier. When certain tasks are done, you do see those because it comes in as getting billed against that allowance. Did that make sense?
Yeah, mine was not a question. I wasn't questioning the validity of the numbers. I just took a quick scan and saw no percentage was being charged for it. And it just, I understand why.
Okay.
You'll start seeing it.
All right, any other clarifying questions?
I guess just to follow up on that. So I'm assuming that there is given that the consultants are under the contract with the architect, I'm assuming there's a spreadsheet that shows percentage of each complete with the consultants at the same time as the architect, or is that broken out?
I'm looking at it right now and it appears to be every consultant is listed with
Yeah.
their contract value for this particular phase. And
Got it. There you go. There you go. Okay, yeah.
That's actually why I asked, I saw that.
So that's forthcoming then. All right, any other clarifying questions? Okay, then I will take a motion to approve the invoices as presented.
So moved.
Is there a second? Gordon seconds, by roll call vote, starting on line. Tim?
Yes.
John?
Approve.
And around the room by name?
Emily, yes.
Kim, yes.
Charlie, yes.
Teresa, yes?
Sam, yes.
Commissioner,
yes.
Gordon, yes. Sorry.
Mike, yeah.
All right, that's unanimous. Thank you very much, everyone. On to community meeting number 3, feedback. Lightly attended, but strong.
Yeah, I thought it was nice that people actually did come out. They did tour the memorial school, which was nice to see, even if I've been through that school 1,000 times, you know, from that kind of perspective, you know, hearing how people really like the design and how it reflects the ed program itself and how it's working, you know, within that space itself. Got some good questions, still went through the whole presentation because we did have some people online that were new. So we wanted to make sure we covered everything that we've gone through it before. And seems that, I don't know, what do you guys think? I thought it went well. I think a lot of people really liked seeing the aspect of a brand new school versus always being here at the Essex School for our previous community meetings. So I think that was well received.
Agreed, like what we're striving for versus,
Yeah,
you know, what we're living in.
Right.
I thought it was very conversational, which was a little bit different from the last two.
yeah.
A little smaller settings, smaller attendance, a little bit more back and forth.
So I unfortunately couldn't attend it. There was the general impression of those who hadn't seen it before, like, oh, this is the Taj Mahal, or oh, this is right for us, or something in between.
I would say it was individual. Depends on your individual outlook.
So
I think there was a variety of perspectives represented in people who came to tour the building. So I don't know that I could say there was kind of a universal outlook on it, but I didn't hear anything but positive about the experience.
You didn't hear anything but positive
Yes.
comments.
I think people were happy to hear the process that we're going through because they hadn't heard that information before. So they understood that we're working with the MSBA, that we have a prescribed process we have to follow, that we're in the early stage within that process itself. So I think that there were people that kind of grasped like what it is that we have to go through with working with the MSBA and the state. So
Okay. One last question, forgive me for asking, were there any people that said, looking at our school and the options we're considering, the option I would choose would be X? Was there anything said, oh no, I want a new school, I've seen a new school, or let's stick with what we got, nothing like that?
I have received feedback from at least one person who attended that meeting about a preferred path, but it wasn't necessarily in conjunction with the tour.
Oh, so it wasn't like the light started losing on.
No, but again, it was a pretty small, I mean, we're talking a handful of people, so it was
Really?
not a big sample size.
Mm-mm.
Yeah,
Handful like,
Or
like 4.
Yeah.
that weren't on boards or.
Right, they weren't otherwise affiliated.
wow.
So I would say being on the site, there was a little bit more conversation about the site being able to take on a whole an
Mhm.
additional 40,000 square feet.
Mm.
Because you could kind of look out the window and say, and this is where it would be, and that's likely what would be missing. So I think there was some discussion without like a position
Mhm.
about that.
Yeah.
And, you know, just some wonderings out loud from a couple of the folks there about kind of what the plans always have a school in Essex, and that was going to be the third piece of the puzzle, and how would people feel about that? And, you know, well, is there a lot of value in that piece of property was a question that came.
Yeah, that was a new
Mm.
and interesting one.
Mhm.
Tim, I see you have your hand raised.
Yeah, I just want to make a comment on exactly that point. I think what went very well was how the team articulated all of the kind of pros and cons of various schemes. While, some people would think, well, of course, we've got to build a new school in Essex. Well, of course, we shouldn't touch the school in Manchester. I think what was really effective was how the team communicated the financial, the kind of community issues, the infrastructural issues, so that there wasn't at this stage kind of room for somebody to say, well, I think it should be this, or I think it should be that. I think the team left us with a lot of really, really great information, and with the ability, with the importance of the process being very important to go through. So I just want to say that's what really came through for me.
Yeah. I will say too, I think it is valuable now. I mean, we have recordings from the first two community meetings, but now we also have a condensed version of the two presentations together for anyone who hasn't jumped in and doesn't want to commit to, 4 hours of recording. Now there's a condensed version that I can point people to, which I think is really helpful as well.
Yeah, and that's all up on the website, so.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. Anything else on community meeting number 3 feedback? All right, then we will turn it over for next item, final review of alternatives with preliminary costs.
Yeah, so the last time we met, we reviewed the alternatives with you, knowing that we were going to be going to our cost estimators to do the PDP cost estimate exercise. We met with both PM&C and AM Fogarty. PM&C was our estimator, AMF was JCJ's estimator. I've worked with them countless times on school projects as far as estimating, and so they're excellent with what they do. They do the whole market. They're all over the Commonwealth, and their forte is schools. So it was good to work with them. We spent the time going through the different cost estimates itself and making sure we reconciled to a certain percentage with the cost estimators to be aligned. And so we just wanted to start off the conversation tonight by going through the actual spreadsheet that shows the alternatives themselves. And this is based off of JCJ taking a stab of going through the criteria and providing either highly desirable or highly undesirable, and then the scale in between for each option itself. So Jeff, you want to go through just high level?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So I'll go high level. This has been distributed, and if there's any feedback or kind of questions on very widely rated what we did. What we tried to do is best reflect the conversations that have been had today among this group in that community meetings and what we've heard. So again, we've done the best, but we're certainly interested in hearing any feedback. So just looking at this, maybe we'll pick options. So starting with the 2 code options and looking down those 2 columns at 0.1 and a 0.2. The kind of theme here is that in a code upgrade base repair, you're keeping the existing building footprint, and that footprint is smaller than the space summaries for the needs. So by default, the building is going to be undersized for the desired program. So that's why the educational category, there's a lot of negative marks. And it's undersized both overall as a total aggregate, and there's individual spaces, classrooms, the gym that are undersized as well. So moving into the community section, there's this kind of split where a 0.1, the K3 isn't showing as well. And that's primarily due to the impact on aspects, right? Moving students or half the students out of town, walkability, community use opportunities, et cetera. So we rated it, the pink ones specifically because it's split, because the K3 are in town, that's great, 4 or 5 aren't. So it's negative, but not as negative as it could be. Moving down, there's a lot of kind of neutral on the site. Cost and schedule, some of the factors here is that it's multi-phase because the existing building is occupied, so that's gonna be more complicated, more costly. And the operational costs is slightly negative on the K3 option as opposed to the K5. Pam, do you want to weigh in on the operational costs just as a whole? Would that be appropriate?
Yep, in the ed plan, we've got about 3 pages of looking at what the operational costs are given today's current circumstances, meaning our enrollment and our staffing. And when we run through the numbers for some general buckets of operational costs, things we thought would be positively impacted potentially by either of these scenarios, the K3 retained here and moving 4-5 is really, it ends up costing us money because we're taking on all of the costs of moving the students to another site, plus retaining this site for heating and cooling and staffing. So we have more cost to split them than we would to move them all into one site. But moving them all into one site, we assume would get some real savings potentially. I think it came up with an estimate of $35,000 in savings because it gives you, with enrollment in class size, smoothing, but not reduction. And by putting both populations together, while you might maybe you need an assistant principal instead of 2 principals, you still need 2 people for 500 plus students plus the pre-K. So we're not getting a ton of personnel savings there. We did reduce down and assume we would go to 1 nurse with maybe some assistance time tied in there. And then all of our specialists are already shared between the 2 buildings. So the positive would be they'd be in one site, but it's not causing any staffing reduction. We've already taken a considerable amount of staffing reduction by sharing as we've gotten small. So we put that one as neutral basically because we're not saving anything. And I would say anything that happens from the year to year in terms of things that impact staffing would likely, it's not going to save us from that cost. So that's how we arrived at those numbers. I would think actually important to mention for this group, the one thing we did note was the utilities. I think we thought would be a big savings, but in the combined model, all of the students going to Memorial School, you'd be adding what is about 42,000 square feet. This is currently 55,000 square feet. And we're not gaining a lot in terms of heating and cooling square foot. And the same with splitting them between the 2. This would still probably be a similar size building, if not a little bit bigger. You're going to have to. So the operational savings just wasn't there, and transportation was a significant add.
Okay. So then moving to the next 2 columns, the pink columns, which are the ad reno schemes, A1.1 and A1.2. These are being sized appropriately with the additions, so they'll meet the space template needs. But there's a similar thing with the K3 versus the K5, where there's just those community issues that persist through that. So that's why you're seeing the 2 schemes scoring differently.
Jeff, can I ask a question?
Yeah, sure.
I hear your words. I understand what you're doing, but I see that the difference between the 2, both the A0.1 and the A1.1 and the A0.2 and the A1.2, the pink, which is very low on the scale, and then the green is very high on the scale. It's the same school, the same location, albeit a different grade count here. Why the significant difference again, if you wouldn't mind?
I'm sorry, which?
Between the pink and the green. I'm down in community.
Yeah, right. So, I mean, just looking at the criteria, so like for like walkability for Essex students, right? When all the Essex students are walking to this site, that's obviously quite a bit better than 4th and 5th grade trying to go to Manchester, which just isn't possible.
Oh, so you factored in the
yeah. So the A1.1 where you're seeing those pink, it's basically not fully red because your 3 still have an opportunity to walk to school, but your 4 or 5 have no ability when they have to go to Manchester. So that's like a kind of blended scoring there.
Okay, I got you. I see that now.
And that's gonna hold true in the next, in the new as well, right? It's kind of a theme that differentiates those 2 options, to K3 versus to K5.
And does that hold for something like neighborhood traffic impact? Are you thinking both Manchester and Essex when you're looking at that one? Because you figure
Yeah.
schools getting smaller in population, it should be less of a traffic impact than
Here,
Essex, but more.
In Manchester, there's like each of these criteria could have a whole paragraph.
Could have like
about it. Yeah, so when it says neighborhood impact, that's exactly right. We're thinking the impact to the Manchester neighborhood is gonna be pretty dramatic.
That's why we have disruption in Manchester below, so we're double counting that impact.
So let's see.
Yeah, just trying to think of when
Maybe-
somebody else looks at this, they might say, oh, wait.
We're not trying to put our thumb on the scale, but.
Yeah.
no. And I mean, I've seen some matrix where that you have like ratings and then weightings, and I mean, it turns into a whole math problem. So this is still, there's some degree of common sense to it. Okay, so that was the ad reno.
Just a question on the educational program for ES on A 1.1.
Right.
So if it's an ad reno, shouldn't that be bringing it up shouldn't we be getting I can understand why Manchester would go red on A 1.1, but why doesn't Essex go green? On the educational program?
So part of that is that you have to split the special ed programs. Right, between there's a lack of continuity, there's a disconnect, right? Because the K5 here would have the services all the way through. So when you're moving 4th and 5th to Manchester, there's a disconnect, and some of those services need to be duplicated, and potential gaps. So we thought it was less desirable than having no one less transition, essentially.
I put it in as 0.
I
mean, so we could talk about that. I'd
Yeah.
love Kim's opinion on it, because we haven't discussed it necessarily as a group, because I mean, the concept of the program as it stands now is it's a K5 extension of K2 experience, and now we're
that
splitting
should
kids
even equal. Yeah,
into
okay.
2 cohorts. And if we look at some of our mission, our vision, our social emotional commitment to kids, I don't think I've been shy about it, taking 4th and 5th graders out of one school and putting them into another school community to create a transition, to have a transition 2 years later. You're creating a cohort that has a whole different set of educational circumstances, none of which are talked about in our ed plan.
Yeah, we can update that. Any other questions on the ad reno columns? Okay.
Future growth and expansion, so would that addition wouldn't allow for future growth and expansion, or it's neutral?
I think it's
possible, but it's not
It's
ideal.
neutral, right? I mean, you have limited additions. The schemes we've shown so far are trying to thread the needle between the wetlands, so you could build on the fields, for example, for either of these options moving forward, and there'd be more opportunities. It's not a differentiator. I don't.
Yeah, it kind of ends up in the neutral.
Right.
Is that why I think that's regulatory, the first one on site, why it's green across the code upgrade and the ad reno,
Yes.
but then it's pink and or red?
Right, because again, we're trying to stay off, we can stay off the wetlands with an addition because it's smaller. The new schemes we're building on the field and potentially where the playscape is. So that you could phase it, build, and then move all the students and then demo, and you really have to go into the regulated areas for those. So moving to the blue columns, A 2.1, the K3 option, and the A 2.2, the K5 option. Again, the theme continues here, where when you're moving the 4 or 5 students, that's pretty much the negative impacts you're seeing, and the K5 option is, I'm substantially green with the regulatory issue, which is solvable, as the kind of one, detractor in that column. And then looking ahead to the last column, be 1.1, and all the challenges that we've heard discussed so far, the difficulty of the site, the impact to students, the impact that the Essex community. I mean, it really doesn't score very well when you start putting numbers to that. Okay, any questions? I'm happy to have any feedback. If something occurs to you after the meeting, we'd be happy to get any email.
Just a simple question here. If I look at disruption to Manchester and the community under A2.2, it's a 1. But there is no disruption to Manchester in that particular case.
It's green. It's right. Maybe you're dropping
Yeah,
that.
that's the regulatory.
Oh, excuse me, I'm sorry.
Oh, it's like wetland
Yeah,
issue.
I'm with you.
Okay.
Can we talk about cost, or is that a separate topic?
No, I
Just
put
cutting
it
the
on
chase,
there.
Alec.
What?
Just
I'm
kind
gonna
of
roll right into it.
Well, you said, or do you have any other questions? You can always take it up after the meeting, and I didn't want to.
Just for the evaluation.
Oh,
We're
okay.
just talking about them. This is the first time you're seeing this sheet filled out with their
Right.
recommendation. And so just wanted to clarify whether or not you agree with it, or if you had any changes to the criteria itself, because this will be included within our PDP submission to the MSBA. So just want to make sure everyone's on board.
I want to take Lisa and Kim next, but I have noticed that in the participant section, on the attendees in Zoom, did we just lose him? We just lose him. Henry had logged in, but we needed to promote him to panelist. So if he logs in again, can we
Yep.
promote him?
Yep.
All right,
I'll watch it.
thanks.
One other
Great.
question on the meets educational program ES on the B1.1. Why does that go neutral? I mean, if Manchester's not positive,
Yeah, that was my question too. It's
it's
We
kind of
can-
a fail for everybody, right? It's like one
Nobody-
cohort can't be neutral and the other
yeah,
not.
I think I look at it as if we're going to that, no one has an ed program because we're starting from scratch and we have to
Mhm.
build it. And this is what came up at the community meeting. If we were to merge if we were to merge the two elementary student populations and site them at the Manchester Memorial, in my mind, your Memorial School ceases to exist and Essex Elementary ceases to exist, and now you have a Manchester Essex Elementary School, and you have to create a new identity. And I think that's what's particularly concerning about the pre-K 3, 4, 5 split, because you're basically taking kids out of the Essex community and ed program and inserting them into the Memorial community and program. And this is not curriculum. When we say program, I think people are thinking math and science. It's really the culture, the environment, the reflection of the community in its school. So I would argue almost it's a zero
That's
Yeah.
neutral.
for both, because
Yeah,
you're basically giving up what you have and starting new. If we all agree that the ed program is more than just whether we're teaching with no atom and everyday math.
Emily, is this related to this?
Well,
Like to this comment? Because I know Lisa and Kim had been waiting too.
That.
All right, so I'm gonna take Lisa and Kim and
That makes
Emily.
sense to me.
and then online.
I think we should make that change.
I just had a quick question, and that is if moving 4 and 5 to Memorial, can Memorial absorb them, or is there any upgrades needed for that? Probably something we.
You've gone over this.
Yeah.
Maybe it was at the school committee that,
we
they'll
did
displace some project rooms and some other programs, so it has an impact.
So it wouldn't be a physical upgrade, but it'd be a reorienting the
four-
spaces.
As far as the MSBA in this project is concerned, the 4, 5 are kind of a full, once they move, it's not,
Not our fault.
not. I hate
It's
to
just not
say it,
part of,
but
it's not part of the
It's
project.
not in the project.
Yes.
We tried to figure out how to frame that up into like because it's not part of this project, we really can't analyze it. So the way we were coming up framing it, there would need to be another project.
Exactly.
We just don't know what it is.
Or the assumption that they fit neatly in the building can operate. I think that's where the idea comes from originally, right? Put 4 and 5 there because there's excess capacity and they will fit without disturbing the intent of the way the building was designed. But when we mapped it out, it, fit that way. You're taking offline the project rooms, you're using, rooms that weren't intended for special education, and you have no room to grow if you have any bubble come through. So you're exceeding your existing capacity of the space.
So I understand it can't be part of this project, but there needs to be a big asterisk that says there would be problems.
Yeah, there,
Well, what we tried to capture was in the meets educational program for Manchester Memorial, and that all goes red for any of those options, right?
Right.
Because all of a sudden you basically
Disrupted
thrown
the
that
whole-
educational program into a blender in order to solve a problem somewhere else, you create a problem there.
I like the way Pam has put it in other meetings too, that the building at that point is not being used for its intended planned purposes. It's being used for something
I
additional.
mean, I guess you would add a B 1.2 or something and just say it's. No, not one word.
Yeah, that we got wrapped around the axle on that.
It was,
maybe under building, it could be,
because it doesn't. There's just no follow on here, which is fine. It's not worth getting into. There's no follow on here that does what you're asking, which is what's the impact of just 2 grades going. But, the fact of the matter is, if we talk about this at a grade configuration meeting, we're all going to come out anyway.
you could add a line under building that says cost to district to renovate's the wrong word, because it sounds like it's old, but reconfigure or add space to Memorial School. I don't know what the cost would be, but there'll be some costs associated with costs. Yeah. Whether it's more furniture in the cafeteria or
Which
space.
won't be covered by this, which I think is important for people to.
Right.
I
so that-
apologize for my
so it would
random
be-
laryngitis.
It would be neutral, or it would be on the group 3s, it would be a negative for each of the different pairs. Makes sense.
Right.
My question was about the 2s for the meeting the needs just across the chart. I was going to ask if we were placing them all at 0, which I think is what Pam was saying. So,
And then Emily, and then we'll go to Tim.
So my question was about A 1.2, where I thought that it was with the addition renovation, we weren't actually changing much of the layout inside the building, aside from adding the gym, the bigger gym or whatever it was. But I thought that that's what we had talked about when we talked about the addition renovation was like, no, you're not moving walls inside the building.
So that is true for the code upgrade phase repair.
That's
So
not also true for addition renovation?
Not at this stage. The assumption is that you're modifying, it's more. So the A0 series is
Yeah.
very just like maybe
sure.
a coat of paint and you fix broken stuff.
I thought that that's what
No,
I had heard about A 1.2
so,
as well,
for
was like
example-
in terms of moving the size, like the size of the classroom.
We would right size spaces to meet the space program. So if classrooms are undersized or possible, we'll try to like combine multiple rooms together, create small breakout spaces. I would do all of that.
I didn't understand that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's, when you see the costs, you'll see that there's a
That's- yes.
differential between the orange and the pink, and that's why it's more intensive.
Just to stay with that point for a second, in my vision, if we consider A 1.2 as a viable alternative here, I think there will be massive changes, whatever they will be. But there will be configuration changes, there'll be roof, wall, windows, flooring. Who knows, the interior partitions maybe, I don't know, so, yeah, I don't wanna. This is not a paint and paper solution, this is a real. Change this place and make it as updated as you can. I think as Jim called it, you'll have a brand new 1950s building.
All right, Tim, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, a couple of meetings ago, the architecture team presented the kind of sustainability approach to the project. And I had asked a question about the EUI of the existing Manchester school. And he said that he would get back to us on that. And the reason why I was asking about that is because the energy efficiency codes have significantly increased since that time. And I was wondering whether there was going to be a significant cost savings in running a new school versus the existing school. The reason why I bring that up again is because, I don't know, potentially under the building category, there could be another line relating to energy efficiency, because my understanding was that there could be about a 20 to 30% energy savings between the Manchester school and this new school. What that would do is two things. One, effectively put another green column under A 2.2 and another red column under B 1.1, meaning that if you're building to the current energy code as an addition to the Manchester school, that becomes really challenging if the energy code is 30% less for the existing school. So I just think it might be important to keep that question present, because it could really affect um, the management costs of the building. So I guess my simple question was, do we have an EUI that was projected for the existing school? And therefore,
I could speak to that.
can we compare the two? Yeah.
So our projected EUI when it was designed was 42.
Okay.
I think what Eric was looking into was what the actual operational one, and I don't know if we figured that out, but that's what we were designed to.
Right.
For
And so the
Manchester.
EUI for the new school is half that.
Correct. And the way we'd be approaching that with any addition at Manchester would be essentially it'd be a separate building on the same site. So you'd be providing new mechanicals, new electrical to meet the current stretch energy code.
Right.
So
I think
less of an expansion to Manchester and more of two buildings on the same site. They would essentially be designed with a firewall. And they would have their own mechanical system so that it could meet.
So, and it's totally possible. I'm just saying, number one, it's challenging. But number two, I think it's really important to have folks understand that there's actually, it sounds to me like a 50% energy savings in this new building compared to the Manchester building, correct?
In the A 2.2 option?
I think it's
building, or
really
you mean
I think it's pretty much in all of the other options, just because you'll have to bring any renovation project of the existing Essex school up to contemporary energy codes. I think the only one that changes, I mean, you'd have to do the same for the addition at the Manchester school. I'm just saying it's a much more complicated, it's a complication to the Manchester scheme. But the more important thing is that to bring awareness to the project that there is a projected 50% energy savings on any of the other options compared to the Manchester school. I think is a really helpful metric.
The sustainability
Yeah.
aspect, I don't believe
No,
so.
I think adding a column makes sense.
Yeah.
And I just also point out when we get to the costs, the pink columns, the addition renovations, our assumption is that triggers the energy code requirements to upgrade.
Right.
So we're stripping off exterior veneers and rebuilding those walls.
Right.
So they have that energy savings.
Okay. So we're going to add that then.
Yes, I'll add the criteria. I understand what he was getting at. I agree.
Great. Thanks, Tim.
And I don't think that
Sure.
does any more operational assessment, because in any of the scenarios, we're realizing that savings. It's just where are we?
I mean, obviously the pink and the blue options are going to be more attractive long-term operationally, and that would be represented as a separate one.
You see that as a questionable concept.
Mhm.
Yeah. All right.
This is my little preamble that I
Yeah.
love sharing with you guys. You saw my email today or on Thursday when this was sent out. that we're at the preliminary design program phase. And so that cost estimating is for, analysis of relative cost between options and not a prediction of the actual final costs. So there are major variables such as geotechnical, site grading, structural system, and final MEP systems have yet to be designed in detail. So costs will vary significantly from the benchmark cost estimating included as part of this PDP cost analysis. So any costs that we've shared tonight have nothing to do with what the project budget will be. This is for cost estimating measures between the options themselves. So just want to be very clear on that because people tend to, focus on the number and think that that's what it's going to be. And I am not saying that in any way, shape, or form tonight based off of where we are in this preliminary cost base. This is a sheet that you can pull up on MSBA's website where they provide new construction versus addition renovation construction. And it's a cost comparative, obviously, of school projects that have gone through the MSBA program itself. And so you can see in the middle of the screen, that is the memorial project that had a GMP date in 2019. And the construction cost per square foot was at $535. I just want to mention that this construction cost per square foot averages do not include site. And the reason for that is because no two site is the same. And so for comparative reasons, they take out that site number. So that is reflective here on each school that we have called out. You can see that we've also compared to other projects that are along the same kind of current timeline as what the Essex Elementary School is. We're pulled out East Bridgewater Elementary School with a construction cost per square foot at $996 a square foot. North Andover Kittredge Elementary School at $887 per square foot. And then with West Bridgewater Elementary School at, I think that says $860. Thank you, per square foot. Currently where we are within the preliminary design program phase for construction cost per square foot, we are at $923 for the Essex Elementary School site. And that is based off of new construction only, because this is based off of new construction comparing it to the other elementary schools. We did look at the addition renovation information for schools that are trending within MSBA's pipeline, and there wasn't any elementary schools really that were kind of a comparative measure for us to take a look at. So that's why we focused on the new construction aspect. So just wanted to give a baseline as far as what the trend is showing within construction costs per square foot, and provide the data of where we were for Manchester. And you can see our GMP was about 10 years ago to the time of when we're actually going to be doing GMP for the Essex Elementary School site for comparison purposes, just so kind of makes sense to everyone. And then I added also the range of total project cost to each option at the bottom. And this includes obviously everything that was estimated by the estimators, but this also includes soft costs and contingencies and all those other things that make up a total project budget in addition. So you can see the ranges are anywhere from 45 million to 95 million for the options themselves. This is again for you to be able to use the different grade configurations as we move forward into the preferred schematic report phase, to be able to look at it from a analysis between the options that we've presented to you. Again, this is very preliminary. There are so many unknowns at this point, and so we look to make a lot of more decisions in the next phase and kind of hone in on the grade configuration information itself, make a lot more narrative, not just assumptions that were provided to the cost estimators, to be able to provide actual numbers that would make sense for the next phase of the project itself.
Question for you. Jim has been really clear about how we understand that sometimes based on the MSBA reimbursement, it impacts the different kinds of design alternatives here.
Sure.
This does not account for that.
This does not account for reimbursement. This is total project budget.
Right.
This is just project costs as a whole, including everything on top of just construction itself. So definitely the next phase, based off of what we know where the memorial project was with your effective reimbursement rate, we can make some assumptions as far as what your effective reimbursement rate will be also for this school. project itself. And there's also factors that we can start taking a look at from a sustainability point of view, as far as those savings that you could get from the state itself, from Mass Save, if we, target those sustainability goals that JCJ's team had, reviewed with us from the past. So there's a lot more factors that need to happen in order for us to appropriately figure out what your effective reimbursement rate will be, as well as any other incentives that you could receive from the state or from a federal standpoint, if that's possible, further down the line. So a lot of factors involved.
So my question with that, though, is that if we are to be using these as general guidelines for comparison between them, with Jim's commentary that based on what the reimbursable costs are, sometimes new construction might end up being less than, an ad reno because of that. How can we build that in so that we can factor that into this usable comparison?
Well, so I'm sorry.
Even with all the
Like the
options
next
out?
phase, right?
Yeah, it's really, I can't really determine what your reimbursement's going to be for each option at this phase because
Yeah.
it's so preliminary.
Yeah.
I think that once we make some of those decisions, and they're based off of square footages really and percentages, that during the PSR phase that we could better understand what that will mean for each option. I will say for the B 1.1, I would definitely say your reimbursement would be lower just because of that cost recovery percentage that they're going to be taking from the Memorial School just being completed 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And in PSR, we have to do a code update, add reno and a new, so we have to carry them through the next phase, so your decision, that doesn't really have to drive your decision-making. Just yet, right? The grade configurations, the Manchester, there's other decisions you can make to get down to one building site, one grade configuration.
Yeah.
And then the three types of projects we have to study in that scenario.
So just a reminder that we are asking for the PDP approval on January 6th, and that's when we'll first start really having those discussions about the grade configurations and having the discussion between the options themselves. But that will help us then start kind of weeding out the options that we need to consider moving forward for our cost estimating in that PSR phase.
Any other questions?
I do. Christina, what you just said is we're gonna wait till we get the numbers in there before we talk about the grade reconfigurations and how that all works to make a selection of the topic.
So based off of your statement of interest and your agreement with MSBA, you agreed to 3 grade configurations. And so we can't just start eliminating them during this preliminary phase. We have to wait until after the PDP phase in order for you to eliminate one of those grade configurations.
I agree with that. Makes sense.
Could I ask a couple of questions about cost? I'm sorry. So just as a reminder, I was the person who said, is there any way we can avoid costs? So I don't want to harp on the cost too much, don't worry.
Make a note of that in a minute.
What? I said it multiple times. However, I understand, but this becomes public knowledge.
I know. And so is our PDPS or estimates that are going to be part of the submission itself.
So I guess what I'm saying is if in a public meeting, or, these have to be defensible a little bit. If we just say, well, they're just sort of plucked out of thin air, it's not going to fly with people.
They're very conservative numbers.
Yeah.
Very, very conservative
Right, and
numbers.
they will, because that's customary, come down. How much, another thing is how much was the Manchester project? Like what
Total
was
project budget?
Yeah,
52.5 million.
right. So if we were at 52, and if we took a 2.2, which is the equivalent, we're at 90 million. So I think it will be important.
Fuel packet slide.
I think it'll be important to be able to, no, I understand the slide. I get it totally. I think it'll be important
Slide up, I want to see.
in a public setting to be able to explain
This is
the,
what Charlie.
Hold on, I want everyone to hear.
See.
it will be important in a public meeting to be able to explain how the costs have escalated that much. And I think it's possible. You can use memes, you can use Boston, various metrics. But it's going to be important to be able to say, no, it isn't like it's a smaller building, why would it cost less? It was 10 years ago, et cetera, et cetera. That's a really important thing to be
Yep.
able to describe.
Yep.
Um,
I mean, if I were to take the $535 a square foot construction cost and say escalate at 30%, which would be 3% for over the 10 years, you're at $692 a square foot. And that's just based off of the memorial project itself. That's just construction,
Yeah.
right? So
so I'm just saying, I think that's gonna be important, because the first thing people
Sure.
say is, this is outrageous.
I know.
So, and then,
It is, Charlie, I mean, it's crazy.
and then I guess my other couple of questions, which are super quick. On the addition renovations, do they include phasing and modulars and things, some sort of premium for temporary
Yes.
quarters and all that, great. And,
Just needed to $70.
and again, this is a more perception thing than a reality thing. I understand and know with certainty that an addition renovation is shockingly not really a different cost than new. However, if we did I guess it just comes with the next phase. It just strikes me that, again, somebody in the public is going to see this and say, I think you're lying to us. You're just cooking the books. You have them exactly the same. And while addition renovation, the addition piece is brand new, so it's the same cost as new. The renovation piece is effectively the same in that you're doing everything. You're tearing off, as you said, you're
Keeping the steel and
you're getting
foundation.
envelope, redoing the envelope, you're doing the new roof, you're doing all the glazing, you're doing all the finishes. Could we do is there any analysis that would suggest that we could save some spaces? I don't mean you'd still be totally doing new finishes, but save some demolition costs. I mean, have you guys done a diagram of the existing building that shows any spaces that actually meet the MSBA template? Because I don't know if there are any, but I mean, are there any things that aren't undersized?
That's what the design is in the PSR. So we would look at various options, how much to keep, how much we could save.
Yeah.
If
If it nudged the cost down even a little bit, then people, it might pass the public. We live in a world of sound bites, okay? People don't take the time to understand this stuff, but what if they see, what you don't want them to do is see a renovation addition and a new being precisely the same and going, I think they're lying to me. Because I know that when it cost me less to renovate my house than it did to build a new house, I'm just saying.
To your specific point about our assumptions for keeping existing spaces, built into this estimate was, I believe it was 30% of interior walls to remain. So.
Okay, so that was in the estimate.
That was, we had to make an assumption. That was the assumption. We
you
could look
still
at
have to
schemes that are 50-50. We could, there's other studies we could do.
30% of the interior walls,
We priced 70% demo of interior walls, right?
70%.
So with that assumes you keep 30%. Corridor walls, the gym wall, like, there's certain walls that would make sense to keep, and we don't know what they are yet because we didn't do a design, but we had to put some number in there as a starting point.
Right, well, I just think we have to be prepared.
Understood. I am, he will be, and
Yeah.
it's numbers, it's not my numbers, it's the cost
I
of my
know.
numbers.
Both
And
these
so
number
there,
and
it's based
here-
off of assumptions and narratives right now. It's based off of blocks and not actual square footages or meaning like layouts and designs itself. So those are all things that make it come down. And so right now, they have to be conservative.
square footage.
We don't even know what our site looks like right now.
Square footage.
We're carrying a certain number for our site, assuming probably not that great of, we're carrying a good number for our site
Yeah.
itself. Because we're not doing geotech work until this Christmas break.
Yeah,
And so there's just so many things that still need to happen.
Yeah.
For us to know we're gonna need ground improvements, what our foundation system's going to look like. There's just a lot out there that it scares me too to share this at this phase, but also it's the sticker shock that it happens with the cost estimators. I have to provide this to the MSBA. They're going to see it themselves as well.
Right.
And
So
so if I didn't
comes
share it with
public
you
record.
now, I would have been then, I didn't want to be accused of not sharing the information when I should
well,
have.
it may be that in a public setting for a while, these numbers are to be kept under wraps.
So I don't think we can do that, but I think if we come at it with the idea of these numbers are, again, based on
Well, you
very
could limit
speculative.
public meetings for a little while. Well, these are all.
This
public,
already
right?
is.
Right,
This
I
is-
mean, you
it's
and not
already-
have any more, community meetings for a little bit.
I don't want this to steer away from that we have our due diligence to
Yeah.
approve the PDP in January. We'll start talking about grade configurations with you then as well. And then from there, you can start looking at the options really and trying to compare it from the, the spreadsheet itself with the coloring and what that means, which is everything that you told us is important for the project itself. And so that should help then determine what kind of configurations you want us to further evaluate, further design into a place that by the time PSR is complete, we can give a lot more information to the estimators so that way we can come back with better information than what we have now.
And how,
And to get to, I just wanted to share, based on your point there, the way I'm looking at this is, these are strictly numbers to help us evaluate between the options right
I
now, to
understand.
give us category, I know you
I
understand
understand
it.
this fully, I'm
So-
just saying, if it is a public record,
Yeah.
that's not how people are gonna see it.
I understand,
Okay.
and so
Just-
for, when it comes to school committee, that's how I'll be answering it.
Yeah.
It's to help us look at between these different columns, these are the rough comparative, percentiles or percentages of what these things might cost. But that's why questions like what you just asked about, what percentage of interior walls are included here, that sort of thing is really beneficial to help us understand the usefulness of this.
And then, of course, as we've talked about, size and square footage costs money, right? So anything ultimately in the next phase that we can do to get the building smaller. How big was Memorial?
So that's what I was just gonna say. We started off at like 85,000 square feet and we ended up at 77.
Right, so if we could, it feels like, what I heard at public hearing number 2 was people going, the thing seems huge. How big was Memorial? How can this thing be almost as big?
Yeah, there's,
So if we could get down like below 70,000 square feet somehow, there might be a little psychological boost to being at 69.99.
obviously the design is going to further,
Right.
the,
I have
the
one-
square footage, as it's refined, should come down in
Right.
some way, shape or form. It's
And I
more
have one-
efficient and also on top of that, just because it's a 250 student school, you still need a gymnasium, you
Oh, yeah.
still need a
I
cafeteria,
know.
you still need a kitchen,
That'll-
and those are all regulated sizes. So
It's more perception.
I understand.
It's just, again, we live in a world of sound bites. My final question, because I wanted to ask it, is about the substantially separate SPED programs. There has been this pretty consistent commentary that it's important that they be in Essex. But I'm not 100% clear why. And I mean, I guess more students from Essex use them, but okay. Could be, it seems like Memorial is close to capacity. It doesn't have enough room for 2 grades, clearly. It's not going to work for that. Could it accommodate some of the substantially separate that is being planned for Essex? At which point the Essex project would come down size-wise a little bit. I mean, the presumption all along is they have to be in Essex, but could we possibly have them in Manchester? At which point we're building less square footage for them here? Just a way of getting the building a little smaller.
I would hesitate to say we should put them all at Memorial. I think we need to have some programming here. We need to, it's appropriate to balance between the 2 buildings.
Oh, I don't mean all SPED. I just meant, I thought there were substantially separate specific programs.
We have some programming here now
That are,
that would be carrying forward, and we had to move the program from here because of handicap accessibility, and that went to mobile. So it can come back as soon as the building.
but I got the
Is it
sense there were some of those substantially separate programs were served in both towns.
They do all
They do.
serve both.
Right.
Because it's a cohort of need.
Right, so they could be in either school, because they're being half the kids, not half, whatever, some percentage of the kids are being taken to the other
Yes.
town, one way or the other. Might be, it's just a way of getting the building smaller if you want to think about it. I don't know what else we would do.
And I would also argue that going back to the educational program and like if students live in Essex, like why is it not right? Like why would they have to go to Manchester because they have disabilities?
Well, those Manchester students are going to be coming here.
These are the
Right.
pull-up programs, depending on.
Not normal sped spaces up. I thought they were substantially separate.
They are.
programs.
So Rise.
So what you,
Yeah.
so in either case, wherever they ended up, not half, but some portion of the students would not come from that town.
Right.
So if they were, if it was in Essex, kids from Manchester might
Yeah,
just think the
I
same
think
thing,
it's
how
something
come
we
I have
can
to
keep
come to
studying.
Essex?
Through the space.
Yeah, I mean, I do think it is a disservice to the town of Essex to have every specialized program in one town, just because there is a benefit to the other students in the building that may not have a substantially high need of disability to have interactions with those types of students, and that like inclusion piece, there's a big piece of that social learning for students on how do we interact with people that are unlike ourselves. Just that educational piece that I think Essex would be losing if we placed all of the substantially separate programs in the other
Well,
building.
maybe some should be in one place and some in the other.
Well, that's what we currently have.
That's what we have now.
That's what we have right now.
Right, but in the plan, I mean.
Yeah,
in the
yeah,
template.
yeah, there's still two other programs at Memorial School. I think the one thing we do know is that when we're talking about numbers this big, penny wise, pound foolish doesn't seem to be an appropriate term, but reducing one classroom at this point, what we know about special education, it's going to continue to expand.
Right.
So if we undercut ourselves now, you're gonna be
Yeah.
looking for space.
Right, I'm not sure I was advocating that. I was trying to think of any way to put a little bit more, take advantage a little bit of the very, very limited extra capacity in Manchester.
Limited capacity all over the place.
I did reach out to just a couple construction companies that I regularly work with, and when I did share this information with them, they did say that it did seem pretty high as far as what they're seeing within the industry right now. I work with someone that is doing an elementary school in Stoughton, and they're in DD right now, and their square footage is coming in at 830 square foot. The market is favorable, and there's a lot of people looking for work, and so I do think that that's in our favor for this project. So they're gonna start high, and I think as we further develop the design, hopefully those numbers will start reflecting the current data.
Does that information get shared? Like becomes a public document, but what you just said, I think would be important for people who don't have any background in this to hear that, it's expected that the cost will change and hopefully come down. Because I think when people just look at the numbers, they might be thinking, well, those are giant numbers, but when you give kind of that background information to people that don't understand the process, I think that might help them.
I'm afraid the perception will be made though. I'm a little concerned. I'm picking up on Charlie's angst here, if I may. These numbers at the bottom of this, when we say this is a public document, is it indeed a public document?
Yes.
This is
Because
here.
the fact that we showed it on this thing,
Once it was sent to us, it
I
was.
mean, I can just see the cricket, the headlines of the cricket, expected Essex school to cost in the range of $90 to $95 million, and that's the only thing that's ever gonna be. Yet, in fact, I love what Christina and team did. That is based on data. That's based on facts of where things are really going. Okay, I would be hesitant to publish any kind of numbers until we vetted what that school is gonna be.
Well, it's gonna be in the submission, the MSBA.
That is why
That's required.
That's why I have to share it with you. It's a public document itself, the PDPs.
And it'll be
I
in the
agree.
PDP. So, but I do think you could avoid using this particular device in a
Yes, I
public,
agree with that.
public,
too.
a public hearing. I mean, you can
Different
say
perspective.
$3 versus $2
Okay.
versus $5.
We talked
I
about
guess
that.
I'm gonna take a slightly different perspective and say, this is the world we live in. And this could be our worst case scenario because there is a world of uncertainty out there. And I'm sure that's at the heart of some of the work that the estimators do, which is it's impossible to tell what tomorrow is going to bring.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think it's also real food for thought for the community in terms of their capacity to take this on. This is a public exercise of the citizenry's willingness to support this project. If this is a possible worst case scenario, I think we have to learn about.
So,
people's
but
feelings.
if I may, Pam, we're in the middle of the process. We're in the beginning of the process here, like here. And to show these numbers, which what the end game might be, when I think we, with the designer's help and OPM and everybody on board here can maybe do what Charlie actually said, just tame down what that school is gonna be and then have a real number to it. Unfortunately, the impression will have already been made at $90 million, when the fact
Well-
is, maybe we can do something about it by working through the process.
Gordon, those aren't that's not our project costs. Those are literally just like based off of cost per square
No,
foot.
I got you, I'm on your side.
But that's what you guys are all charged with, is if you hear people from
Yeah.
the community coming to you and saying, oh my God, it's gonna be 90 million, I would say, no, it's not going to be 90 million. This is for cost comparative between the options.
Yeah, I know. I'm
You
just
have an opinion on
just-
I mean, it's 45 to 90, right?
Once word gets set, you're
At
anchored.
this point, I think what this, everyone can draw their own conclusion about what it's telling you comparatively between the configurations. And as soon as we can clear configuration, we can get to the work that you and Charlie want to do, which is charge the architects to go and,
Yes.
you know, tune up those numbers on A01 and all the the 1, the 1.1 and the 2.1, or whatever we land on. Then you're gonna start to see a real comparison between, well, what does it cost to renovate, rebuild, or build new? Right now, we need to figure out, is there a compelling financial reason to pursue those other two, either of the two configuration scenarios presented? Yes. So are those numbers, as crazy estimates as they may be, looking to provide enough savings for us to advocate for either one of those scenarios? So that's what I find very helpful about these numbers, as much
I
as
do.
we realize we're gonna have to.
I
boil
do
it
too,
down.
Kim. I think it's a working tool. It's a great tool. I just hate to have this become the published number.
Well,
guess I've
not-
lived
you know,
on
it's not-
that.
the published
So many
number is
years.
somewhere between 45 and 90 million bucks.
There's not a
We
lot
don't
of
know, because we haven't done the homework yet.
Right, not a lot of
Exactly.
people, not a lot of citizens
No,
are
but
gonna
it's
go
like, you gotta put it in
into
the
this
range.
I
PSR.
don't know, $90 million here in my town.
So I think that if we could get it into the MSBA and then try not to spend a lot of time publicly.
So I'm gonna
Yeah.
push back on that, folks. We already have people, members of the public joining us online. This is
No, I
not.
know. Anybody, I understand, anybody who's interested can, but
Yeah.
I'm just saying you're not gonna get a groundswell of people looking at this document.
Emily, go ahead.
But also, like, this isn't something that's different here, right? Like, this is the process that every town or district, region goes through to do this. It is our job as the building committee to explain this. It's not our job to like soft pedal what, you know, or try to talk back. Like, the people who are going to take a number and run with it, and that's all they're going to be convinced of, that's not really our like target here. I think our target has to be explaining, like having those conversations in both of our communities with the staff members, because these kinds of numbers get put out in any project, right? I sat through a project very similar to this around the time of Memorial's project, and we had 3 towns, and none of them, well, 2 of the 3 for sure, not into overrides. So it was a huge ask, and that's what we had to do. We had to bring the community in. We had to have conversations and focus groups and put the maps up on the wall and like point at things and talk to people before they get wound up and spilling misinformation all over the place. Because these are numbers that are accurate based on estimations that like every MSBA project has to go through.
I think that's what I was trying to say. What I was made my comment before was that I think the estimation needs to be the biggest word that's on there instead of abbreviated. I think that it just, people need to understand it's an estimate and they're not going to think about that right away. And then the map that shows this one that's up on the screen right now, I think that's important for people to see too, because that's really telling just
Yeah, you
about
can
the
see that
overall cost
cluster,
of
that-
construction. Yeah.
That's what the industry.
Yeah, I like the phrasing pricing exercise.
Yeah.
Because it's not an estimate. We don't have it designed to
Right.
estimate.
Right.
It's this is a pricing exercise, which I like, but Tim's been raising his hand. Go ahead, Tim.
Yeah, I just generally, I agree with Pam. I think this is the world we live in. And I think what would be very helpful is to give people an understanding maybe as to why costs have significantly increase? Because my experience has been there was a 30% increase in overall construction costs during COVID. That has not significantly gone down. And that was a one-time issue. And that had a massive impact on all building construction. So, and to me, I wouldn't even say that the 900,000 is, I mean, that the $900 a square foot is the absolute worst case. I wouldn't make any claim like that. I would just say this is where we are. I would give some context as to why costs have significantly increased and let people absorb it, let people digest it, because it literally is what I'm seeing out there. I'm not building $900 a square foot buildings, don't get me wrong, but the fact of the matter is costs have significantly increased. People need to understand that, and there are reasons for it.
I also want to be sensitive to the fact that the people bringing this up just rode this train through the memorial process. So you guys are seeing what's coming in a slightly different way. And I want to be aware of that. I'm looking at this, and for instance, the input that I've received so far has been, it's been two things. Yes, build a new building. It's outlived its useful life. Or code upgrade, base repair. Those are the two pieces of input that I'm receiving. There's nothing in the middle. So this helps me say, okay, I can see the difference. But if this isn't going to meet the educational needs and we're going to have to do X, Y, and Z to get to that point, it becomes a talking point for that as a pricing exercise to help make those decisions and take in more community feedback. I think that's fair.
Is it correct to say the MSBA won't participate in the project at all if it doesn't meet the ed plan?
Yes.
So they're not going to pay for a cent of these base repairs?
There are base repairs though that do meet.
Oh, I know, I understand that.
Yeah.
I totally understand that. This
That's
is
why
not
they
one-
like to say
this
that their code upgrade option sometimes
but
will be.
This is not
reimbursed.
one of them because it's too
Right.
small.
Correct.
So what's one of the interesting exercises is going to be what's the actual delta between a non-reimbursed straight renovation versus an addition renovation or a new construction project. Yeah,
That meets.
and so I think the savings delta there is diminished, particularly with new, because there's going to be no temporary measures like mods or modulars or anything while with the renovation. There's most of them.
Spending money on things you don't get something for.
Just a reminder that MSBA has increased their construction costs as well as site costs, as well as FF&E and technology. Their caps have gone up because they are seeing this trend as well as far as construction costs going up. So they understand projects are coming in higher, and so therefore they're trying to level in some way to bring up their caps as well.
Are there any initial impressions on the prices, the estimated differentials between the A11, A21, and the B11? In terms of that level of investment for those configurations?
Yeah, if we're going to spend 80 to 85 million for pre-K through 3 and ship our kids off and create this awful social dynamic, I'd rather take the small increase and go to pre-K.
In that is revisiting the regional agreement, and I see that as a complete non-starter in that community.
Yeah, I mean, I think when we have the grade configuration conversation in January, we're gonna lose a number of these options instantly, so I think we just have to be patient and sit there.
That's another factor that I can't predict also is that, you know, if you were to choose an option with a grade or redistricting the whole thing, the regional agreement, what if you were to go to a town meeting in both towns and it didn't pass? And then you had to go again and it didn't pass, or maybe one did pass and the other one didn't. Time equals money, escalation is escalation. So that's just, it is what it is.
You don't want to get further down.
Precisely the same conversation we had about Apple Street.
Yes.
Which is, do we really want to go try to get Essex to approve betterments in advance of starting on the school project?
Within the 900 or whatever.
That's correct.
days. And I
Nine
think,
hundred 13 days. Thank you.
I think it's fair to reiterate that when we very preliminarily had this conversation at the school committee level, considering all of the impact to the educational program and to the student experience, there would need to be an overwhelming financial advantage. And since it's not coming operationally, we have to see it playing out here. So that's going to be part of the conversation there as well.
Yeah, and in fact, the order of operation is if SBC advances one of those two, then the school committee has to decide whether it accepts that recommendation. If it doesn't, then there need not be school committee level discussion about it. So that's our work in January.
Let me throw a few more.
You're juggling.
What are we doing on January 6th?
You're approving the meeting.
Wait, what is that?
That's just like literally like checking a box saying that you guys agreed. We're gonna send you the submission this weekend or this week, so that way you can take a look at it, let us know if you have any questions. There's a bunch of information in there based off of all the work that we've been doing for the past 6 months with you. So we're asking for you to approve that so we can submit it.
What are
And
we
then
doing? We're choosing.
you're gonna
It's
start
just a-
talking about grade configurations on the 6th.
But
The right, the
But first
approval of
we're
the
gonna
rubber.
yeah,
It's not the moment to be, bringing up anything. It's a moment to say, this
Say
is
you've
fabulous.
accumulated all this information.
Our
We accept it.
PDP submittal,
Yeah, they've given us.
Fair enough. So we're not making any decisions. We're just accepting the report.
got it.
But we are gonna make decisions on grade, well, or at least discuss grade configurations, which is where the rubber hits the road.
And really, you're looking at the facilities proposal and the potential cost and benefit of what's before us under each of those configuration headers. So if this group thinks, you know, the way to go really is to, let's take the 70 to $80 million addition version for Memorial School, that's the best, that's the best facility cost benefit we've got. Then we're going to school committee to say, they're getting behind this one for full, you know, to bring it through PSR. Now you need to have a discussion about your willingness to accept that and take the necessary steps to make it a step that they can take to consider.
Where are you gonna play tennis over there?
I think one thing, and this doesn't have to be for now, and you can tell me when it is for, but Charlie, you've got me thinking about this right now, is that we are going to need this same information, and it would be helpful to have it in this format for a code upgrade base repair that actually does meet the needs of the educational program.
Well, then
Because-
it's not a code, it's a square footage problem.
Yeah, that's.
and that's fine, but whatever that actually,
It's an addition renovation.
A 1.2
Yeah.
and
So we-
A 1.1.
It's
Once we get in-
basically renovating this building and adding to it.
So let's say
That's.
you
how we
eliminate
solve
two
the problem.
configurations. Then they're gonna go deeper into all of the options on this site. More detail is gonna be get tighter estimating, which is gonna get you to a point of trying to pick your preferred go forward.
But basically, to meet the educational program, you gotta get to the right amount of size, and so that's gonna be adding.
So I think the piece we're gonna be missing is what happens to realistically consider moving kids to Manchester, the partial move. It's gonna be hard to make that decision without knowing what that means to Manchester, right? What is that knock-on project? And like, I know Pammy took a cut at like it's just making that determination in a box or saying, yeah, there's gonna be an impact, there's gonna be a cost. We just don't know what the scale of that is. And I know we talked about this last time, that's not the purview of this entity, but it's hard to rule that out when we don't understand what it means.
But it also means the regional agreement, right?
It's twofold, right? It's the regional agreement and it's like what would actually need to happen over there to have it
I mean, I
maintain
think
its educational.
if the people in the know are saying that they're changing the regional agreement, it's a non-starter, I don't know why we're gonna spend a whole lot of time killing ourselves.
And they won't say it's a non-starter until somebody tells them that there isn't a compelling financial reason not to force themselves to consider it. So is a $10 million differential
Each
enough?
community has to vote, right?
The school committee has to vote before to take it forward to the community.
But then each community has to vote.
Yeah.
Right. So the risk is enormous.
because it won't happen.
Well, that's what I keep on thinking is the punchline, but I don't know.
But if it was a $30 million difference, would happen? Like, what's the break point on that, Lisa? There's a break point somewhere. Is it 30 million, 40 million, 50 million?
Between
Like,
one-
somewhere, somebody agrees like, I'll bend the regional agreement for that. There's a break point somewhere. We just don't know what it is.
You're talking about the Manchester is where the whole school will be located?
No, taking.
No, take two grades.
Couple grades, moving them over.
2 grades.
So you gotta
Right
amend the
now,
regional agreement.
to move to grades, you're talking
Isn't
about
that an educational
10 to
position?
15 million dollar delta and investing more money in Manchester,
We
which
can't.
at these prices that you're gonna,
With
Blow
no
through that.
reimbursement.
right, you're gonna blow through that right away, which isn't even in these numbers. So you're talking 10 to 15 million dollar delta to do all that and then spend that money you just saved on upgrades at Manchester to accommodate it. So I mean, we don't have a number for what it would cost for Manchester, but if someone can throw something at that, it would help.
You mean whatever physical changes we need to make to the building? I'll go. I guess I'm happy to go on the record and say A11, the breaking them into two groups and creating a cohort that gets shifted over to Memorial. We're introduced to an existing community culture and way of doing business, and then spends 2 years there and then goes to 6th grade. You're putting that group at a complete disadvantage.
Mhm.
And I don't know that,
Yeah.
and you're still gonna spend between 45 and 80 million dollars to accomplish it. It makes absolutely no sense to me. And it's not good for kids.
I think we can just put this to bed on January 6th. I think we just have to get there.
Emily's been so patient. Go ahead.
I absolutely agree with what Pam was saying. I think that, I mean, and I know we're not deciding this until January, but first of all, it's terrible for kids. You're putting 10, 11, 12-year-olds at this very vulnerable stage in this incredibly chaotic situation of change. Never mind the regional agreement and the potential pitfalls that has, but also you're looking at these prices and plus the unknown, unreimbursable, not related to this, which is going to be a separate project cost of whatever might have to be adjusted at Manchester. That all of that makes that just a non-starter for me, not just because of the kids, but that would be enough. But if people need a number to it, like you can't, I don't see a way that you would make a reasonable argument that the 45 to 60 million plus X, if things need to be adjusted over there, is that like 80? No, is that an 8? Sorry. Apparently I need to go to the eye doctor. I'm doing that in January.
It's also
But
very
like
small.
that's, I just think that is not something that would be easy to sell to people, even if we thought it was a good idea.
Plus increased operation costs.
Correct.
Transportation too, is that part of operational costs? Yeah.
I will say I have had zero input saying, this is the plan to move forward with, here's my input, do the split. Nothing. I have had 0 people say that to me, and I get considerable amounts of input on this stuff. Since the original conversation took place 2+ years ago.
There's also the question, and I've brought it up before, parity of the educational experience for Essex and Manchester students, and that's not what you said. They spend K-5 in one school, and Essex kids should get to spend K-5 in one school and not get mashed into another school at the last 2 years. That's not a comparable education.
And we would do the best job we possibly could for those students, but I just think the setup is, you're setting up a very bad system. Now, B11, I think you can talk about merits completely facilities wise. Yes, it would mean great cultural and community change. But then that would be the work we would do, and everybody would be on equal footing. So then this group has to figure out, is the potential is 70 to 80 versus the high water mark on a site here, 90 to 95. Is that compelling enough to push that forward, or is it more realistic that you can get your number on this site down?
Well, and I'll
that
say
range.
that conversation is where I want Andy and Annie and their input coming in here as well from
Well,
their perspectives.
It seems that it's also SBA clawbacks.
Yeah,
So I think you can't quite look at these.
it's
numbers.
that, and then also there's so many unknowns that I don't know for B 1.1 Concom. All the order conditions that we had to go through as far as stormwater management system, the rain garden, if that, in that scenario, B 1.1, that getting rid of one of the rain gardens, where do you put a new rain garden? Because I'm guessing that's what they would want us to do. You're getting rid of a playground. Where do you put another playground? You're getting rid of your tennis courts. That's assuming that that's enough parking for you. That's going to cause traffic issues. It's going to cause so many issues that I have no clue what that cost is associated with those things.
So I'd be interested to hear from people in Essex in particular about this, because I'm pretty sure we know how people just.
Well, that was exactly what I was about to say, which is, you know,
Yeah.
you can get all sort of in your head about what the right option is and all these things. The thing has to have some chance of passage. And there's nobody in Essex, I don't think, who's gonna vote to have all the Essex students go to Manchester.
Actually,
Certainly
not
no.
one.
Okay, there maybe there's one, but I mean,
I've had precisely one person. who
I
continues
think
to do that.
there are always some. But I think the reality is it's sort of, you know, we shouldn't just make a decision because we think academically it makes any kind of sense if you can't get it passed.
And there's a community value aspect to this as well,
Totally.
for Essex to, again, we don't like to talk about it in this way, but for Essex to come to a point where it feels like it has equal footing to make its own decisions and determine its own future as far as the district goes and everything else, Essex needs to have this community asset in order to be able.
The idea of every student,
Town meeting.
Right, you need a place to have time.
the idea that every single student in the district would be in Manchester and that all funds from the two
Right.
districts in perpetuity have been spent
Right.
in Manchester, it's just not gonna fly.
No, I mean, I've heard the
Yeah.
asset argument over the years that there is no new asset. All of the investments and all of the hard dollars have gone to buildings in Manchester. This is another, let's put it on the low end, another 70 million
Right.
in assets.
Going to
in Manchester.
Manchester.
Right.
So can I ask for this spreadsheet? I heard sustainability, add that to it, right? What were the other changes that we were gonna make, Jeff?
Additional work required at Manchester Memorial.
Okay,
To be funded by the district, might be a way to state it.
Right. So those are two new categories, rows.
okay. So we'll get this up.
I'm sorry, also just the other two, things I heard. So A 1.1, we're gonna change the 2 to a 0. The white box at the top will become red.
Mhm.
And then, in B 1.1, the, top two will be, both be, white. I'm sorry, they'll both be, are they neutral?
I mean,
What,
we can debate it. We don't have to debate it here. You could put them both as neutral
Neutral.
and do a footnote that basically says B11 means the elimination of the two existing plans and the recreation of something.
so those will be twos, so that they'll be the same, white.
I mean, we would carry over just
We'll make those changes.
all of the,
Issue.
kind of the technical pieces like curriculum and instruction get picked up and put over there, but it's all the other stuff that needs to.
I would say eight.
How you do duty to, how you schedule recess to, how you have lunch.
Starting.
Greet the kids in the morning.
Yeah.
I would say 8.2.1 should be a 0 as well, so that's just the
A
behavior.
2.1, both of them?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, okay. I see what you're saying.
Is there anything for the PDP submission that we've talked about tonight? Like,
Sorry, folks, all together here, Christina speaking. Sorry, go ahead, Christina.
no, I want to get the PDP out to you so that way you have a chance to look at it before us just asking for approval. And so I know it's over break and I know that's a hard time, but we need to stay on our schedule and track and come back for January 6th for approval. So any other comments on what we've showed tonight as far as changes or updates to the spreadsheet?
We captured it all.
There's more.
All right, thank you for that jarring experience.
Set you free.
Is there any way to quantify? And I know the answer is probably no, but the potential MSBA reimbursement for 1.2 or 2.2 versus B 1.1. Because I know for B 1.1, MSBA reimbursement will be little to none. But what could we expect on a new or an addition reno? Just because that could probably bring those costs down below B 1.1.
I mean, I could take just the number itself
Yeah.
and do a calculation of what your effective reimbursement was on the memorial project, but there could be so many additional factors involved, like there's cost incentives now that you could get from like NASAID, like I was talking about, and there's a lot of other things there. I mean, if it's just based off of MSBA reimbursement that you want me to figure out, yes, I could do that.
I'm just saying to sort of, it would make either the ad reno or the all new be probably less than moving to Manchester, which would help eliminate that.
As far as what your like overall number is,
Yeah,
your
what
effective
the
reimbursement
number
is.
we have to fund is.
Okay,
I'm just saying would help that argument.
yep.
Maybe it's even a line that just says maximizes MSBA reimbursement or
So I've kind of already,
give back.
I've kind of already done it, but there's so many factors
They're all greens and that's red.
that can affect that number. So why don't I, give me a couple of days. I'm gonna take a look at what I have created and just confirm a couple of things.
But even without putting numbers in it, if it was a line here that shows that, you know, MSBA reimbursements are good for these.
There is one.
There is maximum MSBA grant.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
That's where I got that one.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Next spot in the shop.
Yeah, I can take a look at that and I can send out something to this group, just for this group only to have in their inbox.
All right. Thank you again for the continued jarring experience. Okay. Moving to schedule update.
Well, I think we know what the January 6th date is, so no one's good there. And then we're gonna come back to you again at the end of January for another discussion with the grade configurations if necessary. We have another community meeting on January 28th. That one will be here at Essex. We'll do a building tour again in case anyone wants to see it and share the PDP information with the community itself. We're gonna then come back to you in February twice, where we can review alternates again and grade configurations. And then we'd like to then confirm what's the options that we're gonna be pricing with the cost estimators. And then we will meet again twice in March to review any alternatives again in grade configurations. Then we have another community meeting number 5. We can discuss whether or not that's something we want to have again back in Manchester versus Essex. I think it worked out well to have 2 there, but then 1 in Manchester, maybe we can get more people to attend at that location. And then we can review the feedback from that meeting on April 14th, and then we'll then be submitting our PSR to MSBA for approving it on April 28th.
So that's when we'll know where, what, in a real estate. Yes. So I can hang on a little longer.
Right in town meeting season.
Budget season. Don't say that word. Sorry, it's just because
I know.
February and what we have school committee almost every one of those dates, so. In February.
All right, any questions about the schedule update? Any other topics not reasonably anticipated at this time? Any public comment? There's nobody here. Anyone online? Mike Burton's with us. isn't he?
Yeah.
So that's no public. Reflections and action items. Happy holidays.
Had enough of those.
Yeah, we reflected. All right. I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
By roll call vote, starting online, we'll start with Henry.
Yes, yeah.
Yes.
Tim. Did we lose Tim? We lost Tim, and I know we lost John, going around.
Emily, yes.
Kim, yes.
Charlie, yes.
Pam, yes. Michelle, yes.
Gordon, yes.
Mike, yes.
And I'm a yes. We are adjourned at 7:39 PM.